Climate change, as we know, is not just an environmental challenge. It is a threat to every aspect of life as we know it. For Dominica, as for many small island developing states, this is not a distant or abstract issue. It is a daily reality.
Hurricane Beryl was the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record in the Atlantic, causing unimaginable destruction. And so again, this round of rebuilding will take months, if not years.
I'm appealing to the international community, our dear friends, to assist us, not with further burdensome loans, but with requisite grants. The recovery and reconstruction after every natural disaster increased sharply our debt burden. Countries like ours have contributed little or nothing to global warming and man-made climate change, yet we suffer largely alone on the front lines.
We must change the rules of the international financial system and reform its governance and instruments. Restricted access to capital, its disproportionately high costs, barring us from doing that which we must, its inadequate scale, and the overwhelming burden of debt often imposed on us by circumstances beyond our control. These are all now combining to force governments in the world's poorest countries, and frankly, across many vulnerable middle-income countries, to devote more resources to debt service than to health and education.
A recent and commendable stride toward equity and inclusion has been the adoption of the MVI, the Multi-Dimensional Vulnerability Index. For us small island developing states, the MVI is not just another metric. It is a lifeline, offering a means to cushion the relentless blows of climatic and economic crises that disproportionately affect us.
Small island developing state SIDS are the first to suffer, but we certainly will not be the last. SIDS 4 gave birth to the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS, the ABAS, a renewed declaration for resilient prosperity. For SIDS, the ABAS represents the difference between thriving and perishing. It's our roadmap to a prosperous future.
In the same way, the world must recompense SIDS for the injustice of the climate crisis that we are suffering. Those countries which propel their economies, the economic development through the unholy and inhumane transatlantic slave trade and slavery of our African ancestors must pay reparations for this crime against humanity, which they inflicted upon the people they brought from Africa to the Caribbean and the Americas, as well as on the indigenous peoples of those regions.
The Security Council of the future will not be equipped to deal with the biggest crisis of our time without voices like ours at the table. The link between climate change and global security is undeniable. Things are bad now, and they're going to get a lot worse before they get better. Climate considerations must be integrated into all aspects of the Security Council's work. Because of this, the Bahamas stands ready to advocate and support whatever reforms are needed to help maximize the effectiveness of the work of the Council.
The multinational security support mission is critical to the restoration of peace and security in Haiti. We reiterate our gratitude to the government of Kenya for its leadership of and commitment to the MSS. We're pleased to confirm that on the 12th of September, Jamaica deployed its initial command contingent along with Belize as part of the MSS. We are committed to scaling up our numbers. But we also call on the international community to contribute more personnel and equipment. Restoration of peace and security is critical to the creation of an environment in which free and fair elections can be held.
Cuba remains on the American list of state sponsors of terrorism, and the US blockade remains in place. CARICOM is deeply troubled that the Cuban people have been forced to endure this 60-year imposition. We reiterate our call for the removal of Cuba from that list and the end of the blockade.
Today, we find ourselves in a world where the quest for peace is met with a defiant echo of conflict. In Ukraine, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of a nation are being violated. The war in Gaza must end now. We reiterate our demand for an immediate ceasefire and the release of all hostages.
The proliferation of illegal arms and ammunition has contributed to unacceptable increases in the level of gun-related violence and fatalities in our small society and indeed across CARICOM. Trinidad and Tobago welcomes the renewed efforts of our partners, including the United States of America in particular, to work with us constructively to help solve this deadly challenge which respects no borders.
We have adopted a rescue plan to steer the SDGs back on course. We have a pact for the future. We must use every opportunity to put in place the systems and financing necessary to turbocharge our sustainable development and climate goals.
We must work collectively and with a sense of urgency and positive attitudes towards a renewed commitment to a multilateral framework that is more inclusive, more equitable, more accountable, with the ultimate goal to create a better, safer, and more productive planet for our people now